Walking Down the Memory Lane, by Team Reminiscence. Memory is the diary we all carry about with us. Have you ever wondered why we cannot remember everything we encounter in our day-to-day life? You might be thinking it is obvious because forgetting is in human nature, we are prone to forget things. But do you know Jill Price, the first woman to be diagnosed with hyperthymesia, was able to retain all of her memory of every single day since the age of 14. Now, let me tell you a contrasting case of patient HM. In an attempt to cure his epilepsy, he had undergone bilateral removal of hippocampus and neighboring regions in medial temporal lobe. Although the surgery was partially successful, a severe repercussion was that he became unable to form new memories. After looking at these two extreme cases, the most potent question that may come in one's mind is, what exactly is memory? Memory is the ability of the brain to take in information, store it, and recall it later when necessary. Have you ever given a thought on why one is able to remember some of their childhood memories so clearly, while forget what one reads recently, or why one remembers few events so nicely, and not others, or why we remember people we meet often and forget others? Answers to these innumerable questions can be explained through classification of memory. Memory is basically of three types: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. First of all, we will see what is sensory memory. Sensory memory is a very brief mental representation of how environmental events are felt by our senses, that is, how they look, sound, feel, smell and taste. Out of all types of sensory memory, three are studied in details, that are iconic, echoic and haptic. Let's begin with iconic memory. Iconic memory is the fast-decaying visual sensory memory. For example, when one moves a sparkler rapidly, it leaves a light trail. Now, let's do an activity. Take a quick look of objects around you, then, close your eyes and try to recall what you saw. Things you are able to recall is your iconic memory. Secondly, let's see haptic memory. Haptic memory is the fast-decaying memory of tactile sense of touch. Example, remembering how fur of dog felt. Lastly, in sensory memory is echoic memory. Echoic memory is fast-decaying memory for auditory sense of hearing. Example, listening to numbers for mental association of numbers, or listening to music and associating lyrics in mind. Now we will shift our focus towards short-term memory. Short-term memory is the capacity for holding a small amount of information in an active, readily available state for few seconds to few days, considering repetition is allowed. For example, what you had for lunch today, or where did you park your car? Now let's try to understand short-term memory by another activity. Listen following numbers and try to remember them. 751492. So was the number 751492. If you are able to remember the number, then that's because of your short-term memory. Finally, let's proceed towards the last type of memory: long-term memory. Long-term memory is the memory responsible for the storage of information for an extended period of time. Types of long-term memory: implicit or non-declarative memory, and explicit or declarative memory. Further, explicit memory is of two types: episodic and semantic. Starting with implicit memory. It is acquired type of memory, used unconsciously and involves procedures for completing actions. For example, riding bicycle, brushing teeth, and typing on a keyboard. Now, let's see explicit memory. It is the conscious, intentional recollection of factual information, previous experiences, and concepts. Proceeding towards semantic memory. It is memory of general world knowledge that one accumulates throughout one's life. For example, memory of historical knowledge, geographical knowledge, general knowledge, or how to use a phone. Lastly, let's see episodic memory. It is the memory of past personal experiences that occurred at particular time and places. For example, recalling last family function you attended, or where you were when earthquake occurred, or your first day of the college, or last family trip you went on. At last, memory can be correctly described as forbidden to remember, terrified to forget. It is a hard line to walk on. You think you have a memory, but it has you.